We overpay C-suite too much. Everybody should be salary plus a bonus. We shouldn't be salary without bonus. We all want everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. So once in a while, we'll be like, oh, I had the chance to go grab this amazing general manager and I paid him a couple $100,000. Where's the incentive-based pay?
What's up, friends? Never miss a call again. So our partners with Free to Grow, their world-class AI voice CSR platform is designed specifically for trades businesses with industry-leading integrations, dedicated onboarding team. You'll never have to worry about missing calls or losing leads again. Whether it's booking, rescheduling, answering customer questions, or escalating to your internal staff, their AI handles it all 24/7. And not only that, it can book directly into your FSM. So stop wasting time and money on leads that get fumbled. Let Free to Grow turn every call into a book job.
Today's episode is brought to you by one of our show partners, Upfrog.
Upfrog is the OG when it comes to pricing transparency online. They find system replacement leads through paid ads and have developed an entire system to drive those hard-to-find system replacement opportunities, nurture the leads, and book them into sold systems before your team arrives to help you grow your business.
Learn more at upfrog.io. I want to give a huge shout out to Marcus Storm for sponsoring today's episode.
You've heard of Google ads, Facebook ads, and SEO, but did you know that there's an entire ecosystem, like 80% of the internet, that ads can be served on that you barely heard about?
That's where Marcus Storm operates.
They leverage data science and AI to build customer profiles for your ideal customers and get your ads in front of prospects before they are ready to hire a pro, planting your brand in their minds early and often.
To chat with a team about how they can help you grow your business, visit marcusstorm.ai.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. You're listening to or watching a Service Business Mastery podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tersh Blissett, and Josh, my co-host, is not with us. He may be able to join. His internet's acting goofy today, but I'm honored to have Gregg on the show today. Gregg's been a longtime friend of mine and Josh's both. He's with SF&P Advisors. Man, that was a tongue twister for me. And so for those of you who don't know what SF&P Advisors is, Gregg, can you give us a background of that and a little background of yourself as well?
Sure, absolutely. So mergers and acquisitions has been a pretty big deal for, I'd say, the last 5-6 years, right? 2021 was really the biggest of years. SF&P, now you've got me tongue-tied and twisted as well. But SF&P itself has been around for 25 years. So Fred's M&A game since 2027. He started at PricewaterhouseCoopers, wound up at Blue Dot, and then we know Ken Haynes was there, right? So we've done 427 transactions worth $3.5, almost $3.6 billion. We represent sellers when they're preparing to exit, whether you're 2 years out, 3 years out, or you think you're ready to go. As I always say to people, Tersh, it's we're like a real estate broker and your business is a home, right? It's the easiest way for me to describe what we do, but we're investment bankers at the end of the day.
When it comes to the conversation having with a business owner, because I know that it's like our baby, and you have to have some tough conversations with people sometimes, because I know that people overvalue their stuff because it's theirs. And then whenever you're talking to them and it's time to sell, sometimes you probably know, this way more than I do, but you're like, oh, okay, that's not really worth that much. Or if you want it to be worth that much, this is what you need to do. How's that conversation go?
There's always going to be nurturing, right? Everybody in the world thinks they've got the best brand, and Dan Antonelli only has 500 or 1,000 of them, or however many. There can only be so many amazing brands, and everybody thinks that they've got the greatest brand. But at the end of the day, Tersh, brand matters a lot, but culture matters. Your C-suite matters. Your profitability matters. Your membership matters. Your business mix, customer concentration. There's so much that goes into the pot when we're making a stew about how do we put multiples or multiplier on your business. There's almost nobody that can call and be like, hey, I want to sell, get me under engagement. We need to interview you. We really have a stringent process that we run where when we're first talking to people, my opening conversation is always kind of, why now? Is it, I'm tired, I'm burnt out, right? Or, man, it's so much money I can't pass up. Other times it's I've hit a ceiling and I think I need a partner, right? A certain amount of money, depending on where you live, to everybody's different.
You actually would bring in a partner for people, explain that.
Yeah. So when we talk about private equity coming in or family office, whatever that looks like, or you become a platform, they are a partner, right? Whether they're buying 70%, 80%, they're buying your business, you're rolling equity, but some deals, there's no rolled equity, right? So they are a partner to a large degree when they come in to take over your business.
There are times where they're not selling the entire company. They're only selling a portion of it.
You're rolling equity, right? Essentially, you're selling the business and you're rolling equity into whatever that platform looks like. Yes.
They haven't been in the business for very long and they're not ready to sell yet, just to educate them on what that means.
So most deals might have a rolled equity component. So let's just use easy math, right? You're selling your business for an enterprise value of $10 million. They want you to roll 20%. So your taxable will be at $8 million and the $2 million will be rolled to the platform at a cap table level. So then when whoever buys you, when they have their exit, that's you're getting a multiple upon your earned capital on the $2 million.
Hopefully get more than 2 million.
Yeah, a lot more, hopefully.
Yeah.
Concept, but really the way the PE game kind of works, as far as I understand it, they buy a business for $10 million. They're going to fund it with $5 million of debt. They might use $5 million of cash. They're essentially paying off. They're using the cash flow to pay off the debt. They don't really make their money till the exit.
Right.
That's their game, is how fast can we get everybody up and running? How large can we get our EBITDA? And when's the time to sell? Whether it's Sela, Redwood, who have already acted on that. And then, there's the monsters out there. There's the wrench groups, the Apex that haven't yet. Will somebody go, to the public markets? Who knows? Right. But the real massive payday for them is their event that triggers when they sell.
Yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it like 7 years, the average, whenever, or is it?
So part of the interview process, right? So we run really what I'll call a 3-phase process, because that's what it is. During process number 2, when we're introducing you to, and I don't care whether it's lawn care, roofing, HVAC, plumbing, any of the verticals, you're going to meet somewhere between 6 to 12 buyers. We do what we call fireside chats. It's speed dating, right? So you get the opportunity. They tell you why they're the prettiest gal in school. You tell them why you're the most handsome guy, and then you share some real high level stuff. Part of the questions you should be asking, how many acquisitions have you made? Where do you guys think you are in the process, from your exit? So some may tell you they're 3 to 5, because that's what most will say. Some may be 7, some may be 3, some may be 5. Everybody's different for where they are. They're probably not going to tell you exactly where you are.
So you're talking about the business owner, like if I was selling my company, you're talking about how long before I exit, right? Whenever you're actually doing, whenever the PE firms are buying up things, at some point, like they want to bundle them together and sell them. Is that like a 5 or 7 year turn, or is that completely different?
Tell you it's a 3 to 5 year goal. It's probably more 5 to 7 year goal. Yes.
Okay. We're
talking about the same thing.
Okay. Gotcha. I was just curious if that is the actual case there.
Horizon and Sun was 2.5 years before it turned around. I mean, that
was wild.
Super, super fast.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, I don't know how you could even get things under control in that amount of time. Like that's, but that's not for me to determine there. What's one of the biggest things that you look at that have to be fixed in company? Like what's the most common thing that when you look at these businesses, you're like, this is the thing that needs to be worked on more often than not?
A lot of times, I always love the guys that have the conversations around gross profit, COGS, right? Inverse of one another. Where are you at? Our average is 50-50, right? Your target should be 60% gross profit. I get it. The reality of the bulk of the companies that sell are typically more 50-50. The biggest loss leader that we see when we look at financials is typically in the total expense area. 30% is ideal for total expenses. The amount of businesses that are 35 to 40, that if you focused on cost savings throughout your business, whether it's dinners, meals, travels, I mean, granted, there's add backs and some stuff, right? But typically total expenses are something that gets a little out of control. And then gross profit is another area that sometimes guys just need another year of marinating to kind of get to where they need to get to. The mistakes made that I typically see, we overpay C-suite too much. Everybody should be salary plus a bonus. We shouldn't be salary without bonus. We all want everybody rowing the boat in the same direction. So once in a while, we'll be like, oh, I had the chance to go grab this amazing general manager and I paid him a couple of $100,000. Where's the incentive-based pay? And then we've got to give you a negative adjustment because that job's whether it's 125 or even 85,000 plus incentives to get them to where they need to be. Those are typical things that we see that become problems early on that are red flags when we're doing the evaluation. And we'll be the first one to say to you, hey, there's some clear red flags in your business. We think if you focus on these things over the next year, you can add 200-300 in EBITDA to your business, multiply it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. Yeah. Have you ever had anybody come to you and say, I'm good, I'll take less, just sell it right now?
Yeah, no, there are certainly guys that have come to us that are burnt out, that are tired, that aren't worried about the last $500,000 or $1 million, kind of where they wanted to be. They've hit their target. And then there's other guys that are like, I'm 65 years old. I've done this forever. If you can get me $2-3 million for the business, that would be amazing. You've seen our website. You know who we are. You know, we have our billboard names, obviously, but it's not what we do on a daily basis, right? If we complete 40 transactions this year, Tersh, 5, 10 are going to be billboards. The other 30, 500, 600 to a couple of million in EBITDA.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, normal size. Think about most businesses, right? You get to 12 million is where most businesses are like, I say this on every call, right? The journey 0 to 1 million is like, how hard can I grind this out? Yep. 1 to 5 million to me is more, you really have to start learning your numbers, understanding your KPIs, where you are today.
Processes.
4 to 6 million. Now we're layering in all of our C-suite. Warehouse managers, general managers, op managers, field managers, maybe a head in the office. So all of these mass expenses come in and we watch that 18, 20% net go to 17, 16, 15. And then that massive wall typically gets hit around 10 to 12 million. And if you're down at 12% or 15%, well, math's easy. It's 1.2 of EBITDA or 1.5 of EBITDA. That tends to be the bulk of what we see and what we do.
At any point, do you think that, because you and I, we met each other when you were coaching also, do you find that at some point, right as somebody's coming to a wall where it's like, maybe I should shrink back down a little bit more because my EBITDA, at that point, my net profit was at, 15, 20% or 25. And then as soon as I coming up on this wall, now it's at 10%. And granted, it might be similar, like amount of cash on the net profit, but it's a lot more headaches, involved and a lot more risk involved. Is there ever a point in time where you're like, hey, you should shrink back down a little bit more to increase that net?
And we see it often, right? You have businesses that their net's great, and it's typically because they're running very lean, right? And then there's the guys that are at 17 million revenue, but man, my EBITDA is below 1 million. You've got way too many people on the org chart. You've got redundancy throughout your business. I'd rather see you spend the next 2 years getting leaner, growing, add another 500,000, 600,000 in EBITDA and get yourself to where you need to be. Yeah, there are businesses we run into, and I talk to guys all the time that, you need to get leaner. The other businesses that become a challenge to sell because they're overly too lean. And
yeah, that's a good point.
It really, there's that crux
Yeah.
what to do. My advice to everybody is always the same. Continue to grow your business like you're not selling. Even when you come to me and are ready to sell, man, it's a 7-month process.
Yeah.
The day you call me that you're ready to sell, by the time you get a check, it's 7 months. And the worst thing you could do is take your foot off the gas during those 7 months.
Oh yeah. And it happens. Like I've done it myself. Like it's like, all right, I'm going to sell this thing next month. So take my foot off the gas. And then next thing you know it, 6 months later, now your numbers look like complete shit.
And it becomes almost impossible to sell because
you can't sell it. You're giving it away almost. Yeah. No,
I've
done it.
Falling knife.
So explain to me the companies that are too lean. Like for those who have heard that and they're afraid of becoming too lean, because Josh and I talk, we preach automation and AI and like, let anything you do 3 times in a week, like let's learn to automate it or optimize it, automate it, and then delegate it if you can't do that. What it means to be too lean.
They're kind of 2 different subjects, right? So a lot of the businesses that are taking on a ton of the tech and doing automations and adding that stuff, a lot of them haven't quite come to market just yet. Right, from that sophistication standpoint where, hey, we're lean for a reason. We've automated this, or we're using, the virtual call centers or whatever that looks like. The ones that are too lean. Remember, when you sell a business, you own a business, you run a business. It's not you that they're buying. It's your C-suite, it's your technicians, it's your installers, it's your group of CSRs. If it's, we don't have enough bodies and we're running our guys for 70, 80 hours every time. And
then, wear them out.
You've got a general manager and you're doing 15 million and you don't have, a solid marketing base. You don't have a chief financial officer or at least somebody, a fractional CFO working for you. It's really interesting because we've been doing a lot of deals in the roofing space.
Okay.
And you no longer run into HVAC, plumbing, electric's pretty mature.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to find a $15, $20 million business that doesn't have a CMO, a CFO, all that stuff. Roofing, I run into $20, $30 million businesses that are like website, marketing, CFO. I just use my accountant. It is really interesting because they are 4 or 5 years behind.
Why is that? They have very large tickets.
I think it's almost impossible to go to 0 to 10 million a year in HVAC, plumbing, electric. It can be done in roofing. A business could literally go from 0 to 5 million, 5 to 15, and 15 to 30 in roofing.
Wow. I see a lot of guys that are selling HVAC companies and are getting into roofing. I thought that it was more of a challenge because of the lack of licenses. Does that, you know what I mean?
The challenge in roofing is more residential replacement versus residential insurance, and how most of the platforms are probably 70, 80% insurance. I would love to reverse that if at all possible. But the question on lean is like when you look at your org chart and you take a typical org chart for a $10 million business and you're at 8 million, you're missing half the spots. Like, because when private equity buys you, they've got to put people in those seats. So those are negative adjustments that work against you, and it brings the value of your business down. Hey, we've got to put this person in a seat. Not only do we have to add potentially a CEO, but we've got to add an ops manager. We've got to do another general manager. There's other seats that you're just not staffed for and replaced that we need to add.
Is it not beneficial to some of the PE firms that you didn't already have that C-suite because they may want to bring in their own people anyways? Or is that not really it?
Every business is different, right? But at the end of the day, it's really the C-suite that they're buying. So it's the maturity, buying a business, Tersh, that did 2 million, 8 million, and 30 million. They're never going to pay you off your 3rd year doing 30 million. You grew too fast.
Gotcha.
You can't have provable systems and processes. The businesses that are 10 years old that grew 15, 20, 25% a year, those are the easiest to sell. And when they've layered in the right people, there's maturity. How long has your average employee been there? All of this stuff is part of what goes into our SIM. How old are your trucks? How old, Is your team, how many years have they all been with you serving? I've got a roofing business that 2+ years ago basically didn't like how things were going. They fired every single solitary salesman. And while the business is 15 years old, the whole entire sales force is 2 years old. So there's been some challenges around how to position that. And does the market think that the massive growth over the last couple of years is sustainable?
Hello, home service professionals. Do you want to maximize your marketing budget? Then you need to be using call tracking from CallRail. Let's say you noticed a spike in new leads this month. To find out what's driving them, you just log into your CallRail dashboard. Is my new Facebook ad outperforming my other ads? Or is paid search knocking it out of the park? Or maybe it's time to retire those newspaper ads. Since CallRail assigns a unique phone number to each of my marketing efforts, I know where my best leads come from and which efforts to scrap. CallRail shows you your most cost-effective marketing channels so you can get back to business. Go to callrail.com/SBMpod and try it for free. If you're a contractor with multiple CSRs, check out this Service Business Mastery podcast partner, Lace.ai. Lace uses cutting-edge AI to analyze your phone calls, uncover lost revenue opportunities, and empower your CSRs to convert more leads. You can significantly increase revenue without spending extra on marketing or hiring by using Lace.ai to boost your conversion rates. For the first time, you can gain deep insights into customer needs at scale with minimal effort. Elevate your call center to achieve industry-leading booking rates and revenue. Visit www.lace.ai to book a demo today. Now back to the show.
Yo, Joshua, really fast, I want to talk about online scheduling for the trades and how they should be affordable, effective, and easy to manage. A really quick second here to share a little bit about the latest group of experts that we've teamed up with, Autobot.ai. Our team of industry experts has developed best-in-class scheduling app that seamlessly integrates with your CRM. Every booked job goes directly into your software and becomes one of our advanced marketing analytics, which is really cool. We can automatically select the marketing campaign of your choice based on how the customer came to your site.
Yeah, Tersh, those industry-leading analytics tells you everything that you're going to want to know about your lead, where they came from, what they did before scheduling, and what page they converted on, other things. On average, about 75% of people who start a booking with our app complete it, but we'll give you a more granular reporting that shows conversion rates based on marketing source and medium to help improve your marketing efforts.
So honestly, with no contracts, affordable monthly rates, and you really don't have anything to lose. And so it's a great program to try out. And if you use SBM, when you go to sign up for it, you'll actually save $1,500 on the setup fees. Honestly, give it a shot. Tell us what you think.
Today's episode is powered by Rilla Voice.
Rilla has taken those cumbersome, time-consuming ride-alongs and streamlined the entire process by leveraging AI technology to do dozens or hundreds of ride-alongs virtually every single day.
They also provide you, the owner or manager, with the top performers KPI metrics designed easily for you to coach your team into rock stars.
Schedule a demo today at www.rilla.com.
Today's episode is powered by Xero Systems.
Xero is all about removing the clutter and unnecessary touch points to run your home service business profitably.
They use AI dispatching to get the right tech to the right call automatically and job time efficiency to ensure your entire team runs like a profit-generating machine.
Get a tech upgrade for your business at get.xero.tech/service-business-mastery.
That's a good point. How long, if you're growing like this, how long should you have a C-suite intact before you're ready to go to market?
Yeah, I don't think there's a set number, right? But it does help. My GM's been with me 5 to 7 years. Like, you think of the 4 or 5 most critical positions, my office manager, my top CSR, my top 2 or 3 sales have all been 3, 4, 5 years with us. That's awesome. Positively towards you. Turnover's terrible.
Like you mentioned, a 3-year-old company that has grown tremendously. Unless you were a business owner before and you're moving into, like, you probably don't know that you need these other positions there. So you wouldn't have them for 3 years. Like, you might have them for a year. Would you tell that person, would you tell that company, hey, do 30 million for 3 years straight and then we'll talk? Or
at least give it to me back-to-back years.
Okay.
right? If we did, because you've got to sit in front of private equity and explain why it's repeatable. Because to them, they're it's math. Well, you went from 15, you went from 5 to 10. Now you did 30. Explain to me how that happened, we made a massive push on marketing. We hired a ton of installers. Okay, now prove to us it's sustainable.
Yeah. Like that wasn't just you had one major project go on and now that project's over.
Well, that would go into customer mix and business concentration as well, right? So certainly would be something that if you did have a large commercial project or a house project or something that you did, we would get way ahead of that. But again, when we give you your valuation up front, we may say 80% of your business is worth 10x, 20% is worth 4x. So we're going to blend out your business at about 7 point something, right? Is probably where you end up. So we're really getting ahead of all of that stuff before we even take engagements to have a clear understanding of where your business is and then what portions of your business, because a commercial portion is going to be worth different than a residential portion.
More or less?
Residential is going to be king in everything that we do. Maintenance agreements, right? But resi's always going to be king because, it's interesting. There's a pool company I've been talking to, very, very large pool company, and they sell massive commercial projects. Mm-hmm. And they were out with somebody recently that I'd introduced them to, and the guy said, well, why aren't you selling the commercial clients maintenance agreements? He's like, wait, what? And now they're doing it, and they could obviously do it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and it's 4 years ago, for most commercial guys, it was probably a far off concept of why would I get maintenance agreements to the commercial clients? Now it's become a lot more sophisticated. I always talk about this, Tersh. How many businesses are left in the United States that are residential only that do 100 million plus?
Oh, right. Not a ton.
Hoffman and Peterman.
Yeah.
The two kings of the jungle, right? You could make Hiller an argument certainly there. Eco Plumbers, right? Aaron Gaynor's probably doing 70, 80, 90 million, but 100 million plus, you really only have two left that are out there. And then you go down to the 50 million to 100 million. It's not like there's that many out there, but I can go into any major city and find a 50 or $100 million commercial business. So private equity's kind of run its way through so many. If they want EBITDA, where do they have to go now? They've got to go to commercial. They've got to go to other verticals to get massive amounts of EBITDA, or they're buying $1 million and change or $2 million at a clip, and they got to make a ton of purchases. This is one big business, 5 to 10 million of EBITDA.
Yeah, that turns into major risk. All right, so Josh has a couple of questions here. I ignored them as long as I could, but he keeps commenting. Do you see any potential changes in multiples with AI coming into the fray as hard as it is lately?
Yeah, it's as I said earlier, Josh, we haven't seen that effect just yet. Mm-hmm. I think most of the businesses that are now really layering in tons of, and you would know better than me, right? Who your avatar is and what the size of the clients that you're working with. But my guess is a lot of them are growing in sophistication, knowing that they need to add it. Probably we're still a couple of years away from seeing the first businesses that really are AI dependent in their businesses. And it's layered throughout every portion of their business, right? When you talk to Sebastian at Rilla, he'll tell you that a lot of the stuff that we're just seeing now, we're still 2-3 years away from it being practical, like the AI answering your phones. It's really good, but it's not quite where it will be probably 2 or 3 years. Again, I should be asking you these questions, right?
It's honestly, it blows my mind how much it has improved over a short period of time. And it's continuing to improve. Like Free to Grow is a sponsor of the podcast, and they do an amazing job with inbound calls. And it's crazy the difference in the sound from 6 months ago to now. I can't wait for 6 months from now. There's times where some of the introductions on like even this episode, whenever it's edited and goes to the podcast catchers, I challenge you to tell me which one of the ad reads are read by me and Josh versus read by 11 Labs, which is an AI voice synthesizer. There's one that's a kind of dead giveaway, but I think we fixed it pretty well. But I'm not going to say which one it is because I want to see if you can figure it out. But
as I stand here and listen to you and think about it, the platform's going to have to be using that technology.
Yeah, that's another good point. Like, what happens if the platform sees a company and they're like, oh, their tech stack is really good. Yep. Maybe we should implement that tech stack across all of our platforms. Yep.
So I think we're really at the beginning of that. Now, I'm the wrong person to ask, right? If I knew the answer, I'd have an answer for you. And I really don't about how that's going to impact in the future. I would think the more sophisticated, the more easier your business is. Mm-hmm. I would assume there will be, whether it's a half a turn or a turn, meaning difference between 8x and 8.5x or 8.5 to 9. I have to think that there will be some impact.
Yeah.
There's no proof of that as of yet.
His second question here, it kind of rolls into that same one, and I didn't read it before. Are buyers asking about the AI softwares that sellers are using, or do they ask questions about the tech stack in general?
Yeah, so it's all part of the normal conversation, right? So when we look at the funnel and we talk about a business, we start with, what does the C-suite look like? Then they really want to understand your marketing funnel. What channels are you using? What's successful? How do you move from one channel to the other? Then typically the third will be about their tech stack. Where are we with Rilla or Chirp or, Lace or any of the other stuff? What automations are we using to respond to clients and how quickly are we getting to them? It's typically probably the third conversation that a buyer will have with the seller around technology within the business.
Thank you to Company Cam for supporting today's episode.
These guys are changing the game for contractors with their smart photo app.
Keep your projects documented and streamline your team's communication with even your most complicated jobs.
Try it for free for 14 days and get 25% off of your first 2 months at companycam.com/SBM.
Do you think that in the near future, people are going to be looking, buyers are going to be looking for a well-established CTO as part of the C-suite?
CTO, sorry?
Yeah, the chief technical officer, like because of automations and AI involved in the new businesses?
Again, haven't seen it yet. So, I'm starting to see some businesses that I talk to, they're just starting that, but you're talking about businesses that aren't anywhere near, they're 2-3 years out from selling.
Okay.
Starting to get their ducks in a row. They're adding, a lot of more companies are adding the marketing portion in-house, doing their own. So now we need a tech guy in-house. I think, videographers are becoming bigger and bigger for everybody, for culture, putting out a lot of stuff, right? So I think that adds to all of the tech stack, as you said. But I haven't seen any that we've taken to market that I know of. Again, that's the other side of the business that has a chief
technology officer. Yeah. Josh and I, we're getting into that whole, the fractional CTO almost world because of people wanting to implement some automation, some AI, and wanting to know what sort of technology they can use to become more efficient. And like I was just on an on-site for 2 days at the beginning of this week where I was just going through all their products. They're like just observing everybody in the company and saying, hey, look, we can implement this, and this, and it'll get rid of 80% of your redundant work that is just duplicate work. And I would never say like, let's downsize office staff. As we grow, we don't need to hire more office staff because we can do it all with the people that we have now because we can build out some automations to.
But you do recognize you're at the forefront, right? And that's sort of to go to your question, right? I mean, you created what you've created to do AI, to help automations to do that. Name somebody else that's doing it.
Yeah, we're right. Yeah.
You guys really are at the forefront, when you started developing this years ago, right?
Right.
playing around at both businesses and commingling technology, primarily through yours, as we know, right?
Yeah.
But you were really one of the first to be like, I want to play with Zapier, or I want to play with all these things that not a lot of guys were, and they're specialists. You're now bringing what you're doing to a much broader market other than like the super sharp business owners. You're bringing it to every single solitary business owner that's out there. And everybody now knows, hey, this is something, if I'm going to own a business for the next 5 years, I better have all this. That goes to your question of, have we sold businesses? You guys are really at the forefront. I still think we're a couple of years away from seeing that first seller that has all of this in place. I'm sure some of the big ones that are listening that do 40, 50, 60 million have a ton of this stuff already in place. But the average that we do, that 10 million, 15, 20 million, a lot of them have a little bit, but they're nowhere near where they should be. And it'll grow. What are we laughing at? What's Josh got to say?
Josh is an idiot, man. He said even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, and Tersh is definitely a blind squirrel.
What you're creating and what you guys are offering is incredible and really valuable, right, for where it's headed. And it is very thought-provoking to me, even in the moment, about what will org charts look like in the future, what will Fin look like, how much net will we be saving to the bottom line by doing all this. It'll be really interesting to see where we head.
To explain, because fractional CFOs, I mean, that's been a thing for a while. How does that play into the valuation of the company, or does it play in at all? Like, do you typically remove the fractional CFO whenever that like when they get purchased by
it's up to the buyer if they want to keep them on or not. I would say it's 50-50, right? Gotcha. Kind of guessing a little bit, but I think it's an incredibly, whether you have an in-house CFO or you're using an outsourced fractional, it's probably the biggest missing piece in our industry.
What do you mean by that?
Many businesses use a local CPA and they're lazy. They're cash-based. Every single business needs to be at a bare minimum accrual-based, right? Everybody I talk to, you take money in on a monthly basis for maintenance agreements, for memberships. When are you accounting for it? And, if we do commercial work or we're doing some larger projects, we might get paid 1 month versus when the work's done on another. Now it's like, well, why'd you have $1 million plus month and the next month you lost $900,000?
Yeah. The
evolution of being really good with P&Ls and balance sheets, it's my single largest complaint about the bulk of the coaching organizations that exist. I'm a big fan of Nexstar. I've talked about it primarily because they're bottom up. I don't know Nexstar. I've never been there. We're huge fans of them, but the concept of starting from bottom up with clients, that's why I always tell people when you're at $1 million, what you do, go take a class to learn about how to really read and understand a balance sheet and P&L, right? The place, I'll skip that part, but it really is a challenge within businesses that they don't really understand their dollars and cents. And when they start working with an amazing fractional CFO and you have your trailing 12 months and you're budgeting and forecasting and you're building proper KPIs, I started on this earlier. What are the industry standard KPIs? It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Because it's built
the rule of thumb.
Business. KPIs should be built upon where you are today and then look for 2 to 3% improvement across all of your KPIs. Yeah, industry standards for really matters, but you've got the gurus saying, well, when I was doing 60 million, this was, okay, great. But that's not reality for necessarily a $2 or $3 million business that may be at a certain point. So I believe when you get to that 4 million, 5 million, you better reach out to a really good fractional. And Tersh, they should have buy-side experience as well. They should have done deals. They should understand what it means to build a trailing 12 months, what add backs look like. We're not for hire to do that. That's not our role. And if anybody needs an amazing one, hit me up and I'll certainly refer you to somebody that I use and refer people to.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying whenever it comes time to hire that fractional CFO, part of the interview process, you want to make sure that they've experienced a sell Been through the transaction process, like where they've had to get the trailing 12 months and they're really factoring in like all your add backs and all of that stuff. And
they'll do the budgeting and forecasting for you as well. And they truly understand. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I worked with one company and we sold, right? Give me somebody that's done 15, 20, 30, 50 transactions, right, under their belt. So they really understand how to pass Q of E, quality of earnings, right?
that's a large number though, isn't it?
Right. It could be 15, 20 deals, but somebody that's had decent experience from that perspective, I think makes a huge difference. Worst case, if you can't afford it, just make sure you're on accrual-based accounting. At the most basic level, every business should be accrual-based.
Accounting platform you're on, like, are there some firms that really want it? They want you on QuickBooks, or they want you on.
Everybody should be on QuickBooks and have QuickBooks online. It's really important. The same way, if you're preparing to sell, you should all be on ServiceTitan.
Right.
You think you're big enough, you should be there, because whoever is buying you will be using ServiceTitan.
Do you foresee anyone ever coming in and taking over ServiceTitan's role in our trades?
How do I answer that? I mean, could a technology come in? Like, could a Google come in and go buy? I guess, right? Hypothetically, right? I don't have that.
You're talking theories.
The ball, would I be standing here with my coffee cup jingling my coins to you? Heck no. Oh, no. But yeah, I could see a tech company coming in for that, right? If we're investing in the trades and the trades continue to grow as they are, right? Home pros today, 27% growth last month of people into trade schools, maybe more outside. That's like, we want ServiceTitan. We think there's more that we could do with it. There's things that we could, I don't know. Right? I really don't, but there's always a bigger bear.
If somebody wants to get in touch with you, I got it scrolling across the ticker at the bottom of the screen. But if you're listening to this podcast, you feel free to give Gregg a call, 973-919-5509. That's his cell number, or send him an email. Gregg, what's your email?
It's my name, Gregg. So it's GREGG, and then it's at SFPadvisors.com.
Cool. Is there anything I forgot to ask you?
I think you really covered a lot. I think part of what people need to know is, a common question I get is, are multiples going to dip? Are they going to go down? Is the run over? And my answer is, 2021, we did 46 deals. 2022, we did 40. We dipped into the low 30s to high 20s the last couple of years. We're going to do over 40 this year again. I still see, for the right businesses, you don't quote me on all this, right? But we do still see 9X, 10X for solid $1 million plus EBITDA businesses. Now, that doesn't mean you come in and go, well, we do 50% new construction, and you said we're business that matters, customer concentration. But I think the next massive boon probably will be whenever somebody goes public. That'll be the next real big gold rush to potentially seeing multiples that we saw in 2020, 2021. I think
the PE firms, you're talking about one of the PE firms goes public?
Yeah. When that happens, I think you'll see the next sort of big gold rush where you'll see multiples go up. Listen, if our boy Donald continues to beat up the Fed and get them to lower interest rates, that doesn't hurt either.
It's always great chatting with you, man. I appreciate it. I always like hanging out with you. And if anybody needs to get in touch with Gregg, I gave you his information. We'll put it in the show notes as well. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask Gregg. He is an open book, and he's an extremely helpful guy. I've known him for years. Josh and I both have known him for a long time, and he's always been extremely helpful for us. And with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful and safe week. Gregg, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap things up?
I appreciate that you're here. Unlike your partner who opted, just took the day off because Gregg was on. So, hey, I don't take it personally, Josh. Don't worry about it at all.
No. I do. I take it personal.
Thanks for having me on, brother. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, buddy. Absolutely. My pleasure. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.